But he's my friend.
So was I.
You guys are nerds. Geeks. You guys are geeks.
You're listening to the Social Geek Scene podcast, your scene for all the geek things.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. You're watching part 2 of our Civil War podcast. And this week to talk about the movie with us again, we have Jason Harris, good friend of ours, and then, as always, partner in crime, Jeremiah. And let's go ahead and just dive into part 2.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So now we kind of see Captain kind of go into recruiting mode. He has to actually, Scarlet Witch is kind of being held against her will at the compound, the Avengers compound, because she's, becoming really powerful, and they're maybe a little bit afraid that she might hurt someone. But Cap sends Hawkeye out of retirement to go and bring her back. Vision tries to stop them, and then Scarlet Witch just shows him, all right, who's more powerful, and launches him into the ground, maybe 50 stories down, and which was pretty intense. And then Falcon says, I know a guy. And then we see the introduction of Paul Rudd's Ant-Man into the Avengers team, which I thought he just fit perfectly.
He had so many great lines. I think he brought a little bit of really good humor to the film. And I really liked Ant-Man. I don't know about you guys. But I thought it's the first time we're going to see him with all the other Avengers. Mm-hmm. And I thought he just brought his own unique style to the team. It was really cool to see him interact with everyone.
Mm-hmm. And he kind of acted as a fanboy when he met Captain America.
Yeah.
He's shaking his hand really long, touches his pecs. But just he just all right, we're, outside the law. And he's like, okay, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
He's like, I'm used to this.
So it's kind of cool to see a little bit of that loyalty. It's Captain America. If he calls you, you answer, and you get ready to help.
And I don't know if you guys, Falcon, didn't even have to, Falcon, you could, they're almost this almost sidekick at this point in the game. Mm-hmm. He had this really cheesy line, but I still loved it. He was like, the guys that shoot at you, you usually start shooting at me, you know? And so I just think it was funny that Captain had his right hand man, and it was almost a given that War Machine would have sided with Iron Man. Mm-hmm. And so we had this epic fight, which is very enjoyable. And then
heroes versus heroes, which we've never really seen in the Marvel universe.
A few surprises. I think we got to see Ant-Man for the first time enlarge himself
into Giant Man, his other alter ego,
which I thought was very cool. It seemed like he was a little bit kind of slow,
a little sluggish, trying to work things out.
Clearly extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. I did like how he used some of his gadgets from the first film, where he threw I think it was a water truck. And
no, I think
it was a toy truck.
He thought it was a water truck. Oh, yeah. And then it was a gasoline truck or something.
And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," but he had the little device, and when he threw it and it hit it expanded to full size. And I thought little stuff like that was really cool. Mm-hmm. Hawkeye having that line where with Iron Man, how who's playing golf and he never misses. Mm-hmm. And then as he fires at Iron Man, and Iron Man's like, there's a
first time for
everything. And he's like, I didn't miss. I think there's a lot of that just great. I think Marvel does that so well, just kind of that cheekiness, and all the characters kind of riffing on each other in their own ways. I thought it was really enjoyable. Mm-hmm.
So after that scene, Black Widow actually kind of helps Captain. She kind of switches sides.
She helps him get away because they're at the airport trying to get a airplane or helicopter to go and actually find out where Helmut Zemo is, because that kind of going on in the background, they found out information. We need to go stop this guy from what he's planning. And so that's why they're at the airport, this big fight scene. And when it's time for Cap and Bucky to finally get away, because everyone else is like, okay, we're not all getting out of this as winners here. Some of us have to kind of sacrifice ourselves to let you go. But then Black Widow, it's like, you got, I'm going to stop you, but then she doesn't. And Black Panther is coming to fight them, and she stops him. She shoots him with her electric weapons or whatever. And so Bucky and Cap get away, and we see the end of that battle fight scene. And actually, as they're flying away, Iron Man and War Machine are still chasing them in pursuit, and then Falcon's chasing them. And then you see the Vision try to shoot at Falcon, miss, and then hit Rhodey, War Machine. And he hits his chest plate, which makes his whole suit go.
And we get to see him spiral to the earth. That was very stressful. I love Don Cheadle and I love War Machine. I thought those are just a great casting. And in the trailer, they almost make it seem like this is the end of War Machine. And I was really relieved to find that other than some major bone crushing, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
They showed him recovering, I wouldn't say nicely, but recovering at the end of the film.
Yeah. He's almost paralyzed. We're not really sure if he's ever going to be able to walk again. But that was just an intense scene for Tony. Mm-hmm. He's seeing his friend Cap turn against him, and then his other best friend falling and then almost dying. And it's just like the rage and the anger are just coming out. It's like, what is going on with the Avengers? We're falling apart. And so we see half the team get captured by Tony and the other guys. We actually see the introduction of the Raft, which is from the comics, which is a underwater prison for supervillains, and that's actually where they keep Ant-Man, Falcon, Hawkeye, and Scarlet Witch prisoner. And it's like Tony's actually imprisoning his friends, and it's kind of, I think that's hard for him to have to do that in general. Or Secretary of State Ross is kind of like running that. But now we see Cap and Bucky going off to Moscow or somewhere in Russia, and it's actually kind of the headquarters for the Winter Soldier project or whatever, where they were making assassins and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we are at this point in the movie. But Tony actually figures out some information that Baron Zemo wasn't supposed to be the one interviewing Bucky back at the compound after he was captured. There was another guy. They found that guy's body, and that Zemo was from Sokovia, and his family was killed in the battle against Ultron. So we actually kind of see his motivation, that he is angry with the Avengers and wants revenge. So
wants to tear them apart from the inside.
Right.
Instead of just hurl big robots and aliens at them, which I thought it's a nice change up for a superhero movie, you know?
Right. If you are, and I think it's been done a lot in different movies and comic books and, you know, a whole bunch of things, but, you know, that is a good, if you wanted the best way to, you may break up the band is from the inside. And at least I thought that was a good sort of motivation for the villain.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't an obvious bad guy from the get-go. It was just kind of like this guy behind the scenes, kind of, he has an agenda, you're not really sure what it is, but there's something about it to where he doesn't like the Avengers, but you don't know why. And why he's going after the Winter Soldier program, like, how does that tie in?
Yeah, I think it kind of shows his intelligence, because he's like, how do I take on the Avengers? And he's like, he's just finding those small little strings and just tugging at these little threads and just slowly like unraveling like the team. Like it wasn't like I'm just gonna go and forcefully destroy them. It was like a very slow burn, methodically thought out plan that I liked.
Right. And so we see him, he's actually kind of using the whole Winter Soldier thing as bait to draw them in so that he can show them something. And so we have Bucky and Cap kind of going at it alone to face this guy. They think there might be other Winter Soldier assassins that they might have to fight that are as powerful as Bucky and Cap.
More powerful.
Or more powerful. And then you see Iron Man actually finding out a lot about some of this information that he's actually going to go and maybe help them. It's like, oh, maybe they'll make amends. And even Black Panther is tagging them, keeping track. And so he goes up there too. So the expectation is there might be this big other battle scene with all of them maybe joining forces. But then we get up there and all the other Winter Soldiers who are in cryostasis, Zemo just shoots him in the head. He's like, he's not going to use them. And he gets at least Iron Man, Bucky, and Cap all in the same room. And he's like, I have something to show you. And he tells them who he is from Sokovia and all that stuff. Then we see the video, which is of
Winter
Soldier, Bucky from 1991, killing Tony Stark's parents, Howard Stark, in a car crash, stealing some special, which I think was serum for the Winter Soldier program, but actually made them kind of super soldiers.
Yeah, and we have to remember, though, in the context, especially from this all ties back to the beginning of the film. I think it would maybe the opening scenes. The Winter Soldier is operating under this sort of mind control, and he. There's this really great line in the film when, Captain America is like, you didn't kill those people, but Bucky's like, I did, and so, I don't think at this point it's too late for Iron Man to sympathize. It just seeing Bucky operate like this and just cold-blooded, just murder his parents, sets him off. And I don't think even if he knew or had this, if he had the information that, Bucky wasn't doing this maybe on his own will, that there was this like mind control behind it. I don't think it would have even mattered because Tony Stark was just set off by this.
What was interesting is actually that Captain America actually knew that Bucky did that.
Right.
Do we know how he knew that?
They never really alluded to that.
But we just know that he knows.
But he withheld the information
from Iron
Tony,
Man.
yeah.
because he thought it was for a greater good.
Yeah. Captain, I think, was trying to protect Tony. And I think in that letter that he wrote later, he kind of apologized for it, right?
Yeah. Let's wait to get to the letter.
Okay.
So everything kind of just comes to a point. This is the ultimate Civil War fight scene.
Yeah.
Iron Man's trying to kill Bucky. Cap's trying to stop Iron Man from killing Bucky. And you just have friends fighting each other, and you don't know if one of them is going to try and kill the other.
Yeah. And there's even this underlying, like, why are they even fighting at this point? Because I think with all they'd been through up to this point, the Baron Zemo, I'm sorry. He's clearly done a really good job of just tearing away at him little by little. And I would say one of my favorite parts of the fight was at some point Iron Man systems go haywire. they're like really. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway,
Your favorite part about Iron Man?
my favorite part about Iron Man was so his suit's going haywire, and like he's so just like he's got like this. He's got one thing on his mind, and he's just like, I've got to kill the Winter Soldier, and so he can't get a lock on with one of his missiles, and it's so funny. He's talking to the computer, and she's like, we can't get a lock. And so he takes his mask off and he's like, you know what, no problem. I'm just going to eyeball it. And so I don't know. I thought that was so great because, I mean, clearly like his desire to end, the Winter Soldier, like he was like, I don't even need my suit. Like I'll like whatever it takes, I'm gonna. So I mean, you even saw him kind of fighting even a little recklessly. So
Yeah. I feel like they're all kind of just emotionally drained a little bit at this point, and they were just kind of like frustrated, angry, like emotions are high, and they're just like they don't really care about anything except like just meeting their end goal because they just need all of this madness to end. So they're just flailing and just going crazy.
And so we kind of see the fight sequence that we've seen in the trailer coming up of Bucky and Cap both taking on Iron Man, passing the shield back and forth, knocking him down, which was so epic and such a great fight sequence. And then Tony kind of gets the upper hand, but then the Winter Soldier just kind of goes in almost for the kill, and with his metal arm tries to rip out the arc reactor, which would pretty much take out his suit. But then you see Tony just shoot out of that chest piece, that beam, and he blows off the arm of the Winter Soldier, rendering him like incapacitated. And when he's about to go for the final kill, Cap just comes in, and it's Cap and Iron Man. And you actually see this is from the Civil War comic book of the Shield and Iron Man, and it was just perfect. And they did that a lot in this movie, alluding to scenes from the comic book Civil War. And so they're going back and forth, and what was so great is that Zemo, probably the least powerful villain we've seen in the Marvel movies, he did what no other villain could do to break up, destroy the Avengers, and he did it from within, which I think that's what made him such a great villain. It was just not his powers, but his ability to outthink and outmaneuver and do that to the team. And so Black Panther is up there. He's kind of watching all this. He's like, they're destroying each other. And he realizes that the Winter Soldier didn't kill his father. It was this Zemo guy, and that he has all this revenge in his heart, and he needs to let it go. And he actually goes and talks to Zemo. It's like, you need to let the revenge go for what happened to your family. And just as Zemo is about to kill himself, like, I accomplished what I wanted to. I'm done here. Black Panther stops him. It's like, the living are not done with you yet, which was a great line. But you're just seeing Cap, Iron Man go back and forth still. And Iron Man finally gets the upper hand by using his system to figure out all of Cap's fighting moves, because he's like, I can't beat him because he's just such a great fighter. But then when he figures out all of his fighting moves, he just takes him out, and Cap's like kind of beaten down. But then he says the classic line that he said in the very first Captain America movie, I can do this all day. And it's like, neither one of them are going to stop. But then Cap just wails on him. Looks like he's about to kill him with the shield, but then just shoves it into his chest piece, and that's it. Gets Bucky, leaves, but Tony's like, you don't deserve that shield. My father made that shield, and your friend killed my father. You don't deserve it. And Cap leaves the shield. And so does that mean he's giving up the mantle of Captain America right now, or is he doesn't care and he's leaving and he's done?
I felt like he left it as a ode to Tony. Like, even though they are fighting, they are still friends. Yeah. And he left it kind of like, you're right. Like, in an argument with anyone, like, not everyone wins. Like, sometimes you're just like, well, we can't figure this out. So just kind of like, whatever, you know? So I feel like he was kind of like that.
Yeah, and I feel like they were at least maybe somewhat respectful, because I think they both understood, at least to some degree, that at the end of the day, they were just fighting in what they were believing in. And I think that even while they disagreed, I feel like there was at least maybe some respect. I mean, in this hypothetical, we've always played, who would win, and I think it was really, I I think it was really cool to actually see, it was Iron Man and Captain America going at it, and I would say I was a little surprised with the outcome. I would say if I was a betting man, I would have said Iron Man would have taken Cap easily, but we get to see Captain America actually coming out with the win, if you can even call it that.
It seems like no one really won.
Right.
I mean, they both escaped killing each other, but everyone kind of lost. The friendships were destroyed, and both were beaten to kind of a bloody pulp there.
And I think these will have much implications going into the future.
I was a little surprised. My expectation for this movie, it's based off of the comic book. And in the comic book, Captain America dies at the end. But spoiler, he doesn't die. No one really dies in this movie, actually. I mean, these main characters. But they kind of leave it with, okay, Cap's gone underground. Tony is now leading the Avengers team who have signed the Sokovia Accords. And so now this movie kind of is going to reverberate throughout the rest of the Marvel Universe with other heroes. The government wants control over all of them. And now Cap, who's pretty much a vigilante criminal now, has to go underground. And we actually see the formation, I think, of the Secret Avengers. At the end of the Civil War comic book, I think you have Tony Stark's Avengers, the Mighty Avengers, and then the Secret Avengers. And so Cap's not dead, but he actually breaks out Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Sam, and Scarlet Witch at the end of the movie, which is kind of a tease to where, okay, they're still around, but Tony's leading the Avengers now. And actually, Tony gets a letter from Cap actually kind of apologizing or saying, hey, I still care about you. And I'm so sorry for what happened. And the Avengers are yours, but we both have to do what we feel is right, which is kind of the theme throughout the movie. Like, who was right in this whole thing? And they both kind of left it with, you think you're right, I think I'm right.
Yeah.
And that's all we really can do is stand up for what we believe in.
Let's just agree to disagree.
Right.
He even had like this sort of like, hope you understand. And I think he even threw in at the end, like, if you ever need us, we're around. Didn't Tony like help him out at the end? Like, didn't like the alarms go off and because he knew it was going to break him out and like he should have done something, but he stayed quiet.
I don't think he knew Cap was going to break them out, but as soon as Ross called, like they knew something was going on, or he figured out Cap was maybe breaking them out. He's like, you know what? Whatever, let them go, because I think Tony knows he wants to keep the Avengers together even through all of this, and that they're going to need each other eventually.
Right.
There's still this overarching problem within the Marvel universe that something is coming, which Tony saw in Age of Ultron of the Avengers dead and the world being taken over. He still has that in his mind, and he knows they're all going to need to fight together eventually. It's just we kind of have to go our separate ways because we cannot agree about this. But they're still Avengers. We're Avengers. We're going to need each other eventually. But we're just on opposite sides of this viewpoint.
And the thing about Captain's team is like they're superheroes and they're vigilantes. Like, think of all the other superheroes who are vigilantes, like all of them, like Daredevil, Batman. All of these heroes in other universes, they're all vigilantes. Like, they put on costumes and save people, and they don't work with the police. They do their own thing. So, like, they're just going back to, like, superhero 101 when like I'm just me and I'm gonna help people. Like, I don't want to get complicated with it. I'm just helping people. So I think it's cool that they are bringing that back because they were getting to this like really high elevated like position with the government and everything, and so I feel like it's really cool that now we have two sides. Like, we have superheroes working with the government, and then we just have our straight up vigilantes like that we know, like running around and helping people and just doing their own thing.
So what did you guys think about we got to see Iron Man, what happened when he sided with the government. Clearly, they arrested some of the Avengers, and I felt like there was like, being good or aligning with the government had its perks, and I thought that was interesting to show. But I kind of wish that they would have maybe shown a downside to that, because I think Captain hinted that they're gonna, if they have control over you, they can ask you to do stuff that maybe you don't want to do. And I feel like we didn't get to see that, but I'm hoping that maybe they might develop that more.
I think they showed a little bit of that. Ross was kind of putting restraints on Tony. Tony was like, give me 72 hours. And Ross is like, you have 36 hours. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to go retrieve Cap and Bucky. Mm-hmm. Ross didn't want them to.
And Tony Stark withheld information from him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting that, like, Tony's the first one to sign that paper, but he's also the first one to, like, rebel against it. Mm-hmm. Or not rebel, but, like, still do things his own way, but he's letting the government think they're in control, you know? So I thought that was kind of an interesting take.
You kind of saw at the end Rhodey, Tony's trying to help him get back up on his feet. I think Rhodey's having a little bit of a second thought. I mean, I think he still thinks it was the right thing to do, mm-hmm. but the outcome was bad. I mean, he got hurt really bad, and this was supposed to make things easier or mm-hmm. better for everyone, and it hasn't.
Yeah.
So
I think they're all going to kind of post these events, all kind of reevaluate things, mm-hmm. and then really actually have time to have a hard look at what's happening. Because I feel like this movie kind of was like, here's the decision, make it moves so quick. Mm-hmm. But whenever the next movie comes out, I think it'll be interesting to see how the characters have settled into this new split.
Right. And the Russo brothers, the directors of this film, said in an interview that the Civil War isn't done. Mm-hmm. This is just the beginning, and it's going to affect all the other events that take place within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all these other movies and characters. And now the government's they're trying to find all the superhumans and get them registered, get them to sign this, which I think might have a big effect on the next Spider-Man movie, which comes out next year. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man's going back to Queens to be the hero that he is, but he's still a masked hero, not working necessarily with the government, mm-hmm. trying to save people. And, J. Jonah Jameson is always he's a menace to society, all this stuff. And so is that going to affect Spider-Man? Mm-hmm. And his ability to be a hero and help save people, because Tony recruited him. Is Tony going to try and convince him, which he does in the comics, to unmask himself, to register and let people know who he is, give out all that information? When Spider-Man's he's a kid and he's just trying to protect his city and protect his Aunt May. And so I think we might see some of the effects of all this in some of these solo movies coming out.
Mm-hmm. So what's next after Civil War, what's next? What are we looking forward to? These characters are split up, but mm-hmm. what movies are on the horizon?
Well, we have Doctor Strange coming out this year in November 2016 mm-hmm. with Benedict Cumberbatch, which looks fantastic.
The trailer is pretty rad.
Definitely a different type of hero,
mm-hmm.
dealing with the mystical, other dimensions. We haven't seen that really before. And we have Guardians of the Galaxy 2 coming out May of next year. That's going to be huge. Loved Guardians of the Galaxy when it came out. And then we have the Spider-Man solo movie coming out July of 2017. Him on his own, really seeing kind of his formation and development as a hero.
And we are really hoping that we do not see a third Uncle Ben death in this film.
Yeah, we all know the origin story.
Enough with the origin stories. Let's just get on with the story.
Yeah,
and I think we all agree that we like what we see so far. So
right,
hopefully, I don't think it'll get screwed up, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, we have Thor 3 Ragnarok, which means like end of days. And so I think that movie is really going to be big. It's supposed to take place mostly in Asgard or in the cosmos, not a lot of time on Earth, which I think will be cool. And then we actually have the first Black Panther solo movie coming out beginning of 2018, which I'm really looking forward to. I think they just announced that Michael B. Jordan is cast in that movie as, I think the rumors are he's a villain. We're going to see Andy Xerxes come back, who was in Age of Ultron. He's a major Black Panther villain. Ulysses Claw, I think is his name. So I think the cast is going to be great. We're going to see Wakanda, which we actually saw in a post-credit scene. They're in Wakanda. Captain America and Winter Soldier have been given kind of a safe haven. Black Panther doesn't want to kill Winter Soldier anymore. He wants to help them, befriend them, understands what happened with Zemo. And Winter Soldier actually goes back into cryostasis because his mind is still able to be controlled. Yeah. He wants that to be taken care of. And Cap says to T'Challa, if people find out he's here, they're going to come for him. And he just says, with just such great authority and prestige, let them try. If anyone tries to attack us, they don't know what they're getting themselves into. And then after Black Panther, we have Avengers Infinity War.
Are we going to see a Ant-Man 2 before that?
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, which we'll see Evangeline Lilly don the superhero identity of the Wasp, which her mother was Janet Van Dyne in this Marvel universe. That comes out after Infinity War Part 1. So I think maybe Cap's team might not show up in Infinity War Part 1. This is going to be more of Tony reforming the Avengers with a lot of these new characters. And then Infinity War Part 2 will come about, and then everybody's going to join forces, which, I mean, this movie was so great that they were able to integrate all these characters. I mean, it was an Avengers light kind of movie.
There were so many characters, and I think I definitely had some reservations. Like, it's a Captain America movie. It's not an Avengers movie. There's so many characters in the film. Is it going to, detract from actually pushing a story along? And I think for the most part, they did a really good job. And like I was saying earlier, I do think it was a Captain America movie. And so what's going to be really interesting is when we get to Infinity War and we have upwards of like 70 confirmed characters.
They said 60 something, which is so, oh my goodness.
I mean, it's really ambitious. So we will see.
Yeah. And I think heading into that, we're still going to have this conflict of the Sokovia Accords, the government control, and then heroes trying to still fight the battles and not be controlled. But I think with Thanos eventually coming to destroy everything with the Infinity Gauntlet and all the Infinity Stones, it's not going to matter anymore. Everyone has to stand together, which is just going to be a really epic scene of just all these heroes together, which is just something great to look forward to. Marvel does a great job of giving us something. It's like, this was awesome. Oh yeah, there's more coming. And it's so fantastic. The anticipation is great. So overall, Captain America Civil War, great film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So many great characters. This was definitely a great ending to a Captain America trilogy. Captain America, the first Avenger with the Red Skull, great origin story for him, set in the 1940s, and then with Winter Soldier, Shield, all that stuff, and then the introduction of Falcon, and now it just keeps getting better and better, and his story keeps unfolding a little bit, and his decision of how to exist within this new world, which he's just a fish out of water, even though he keeps, he's a part of the team now, but there's always something that's making him feel out of place. And I think they really fleshed that out with this movie. And I think this is the last Cap movie for Chris Evans for his contract. I mean, he'll be in Infinity War, but maybe someone else might have to don the shield after this. So, great movie, loved it. Well, that's a wrap on our Civil War podcast. There was a lot of content to get through, but such a great movie. Definitely recommend go see this movie. It's fantastic. Jason, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We love your insight into all the geek things, superheroes, comic books, this sci-fi stuff. These are things we love to talk about with our friends, so it's great to have you here to get your insight. And that's all we have for this week. We'll see you guys next time. Please give us your comments below. We'd love to know what you thought about the movie, about the podcast, and just be a part of our social geek scene. So we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, connect with us on the socials, and online at socialgeekscene.com.